Now, with claim, we have talked about the definitions. We've done some claim practice where you had to identify, well, which part of this is a claim, or is it a claim at all? And then we did the breakout room, and now we're going to get into writing claims. That's going to be the next step after this. This is going to be kind of our final thing about reading claims and identifying claims before we actually start getting into writing claims and doing our first essay. So this first section, this guided practice, it is guided because I am going to help you with it. This is not necessarily an easy passage, but it is a great argument and it's got a lot of good evidence. And so we are going to do this together. So this argument, this speech that we're going to watch, and then I want you guys to maybe read along as the video is playing, because it's not like the actual video part of it is fantastic. It's actually really kind of grainy and blurry and things like that. But the speech in and of itself is good. And that's, like I said, why we're doing it. And what this speech is from, this is from President Franklin Roosevelt's first inaugural address. So can anybody take a guess or hop in the chat if you know what is an inaugural address? What this is when the president becomes the president, there's a whole ceremony that happens. The old president kind of ushers in the new president, and then the new president puts his hand on a Bible, he holds his hand up, and they say, I, in this case, I, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, do so solemnly swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America and to do my job to the best of my ability, or something along those lines. I know I'm butchering it, but they swear an oath to try to be the best president that they can be. And right after that swearing in is done, it's the president's turn to say a speech. And it's literally their first action as president. And so when this was given on March 4th, 1933. And this was President Roosevelt's first act as president. And I've got a little bit of information down here under the links just telling us about FDR, because I don't know if anybody's even heard of him, and I didn't want us flying in blind. So Franklin Delano Roosevelt was the 32nd president of the United States of America. He was president in a time where life was really shaky. Okay, that's why I say uncertainty and national struggle, even global struggle. We're at the tail end of the Great Depression, and World War II is just beginning. Okay, in America, people were unemployed. People were homeless. People were starving because our economy was just trashed. Our economy was just gone. Yeah, and Germany had the same thing after World War I. They had their own just economic fall apart. And we had ours in 20s and 30s. The stock market crashed in 28. And it wasn't until we joined World War II that we really got out of the Great Depression. And Roosevelt knew going into this that the American people no longer trusted their leaders. Because Herbert Hoover, the president in front of him, he was elected in, and he was saying all of this stuff like how he was going to get the jobs back, and he was going to get the stock market back to where it was, and he was going to do all these great things. And he never ended up doing any of them. Most of the people who were homeless, they started forming what is called shanty towns on the edges of bigger cities. And what a shanty town is, it's almost like its own city. It's a little village of just people who made their own houses out of cardboard, out of scraps of wood, maybe from just trash pieces of metal that they found in the garbage dump. So they took all of these pieces around them and they made these little villages. And they're always very poor, and they don't have electricity. They don't have any running water because, like I said, they're cardboard houses. They're wood houses. They're made of just bits and pieces because that's all they had. They didn't have money to do any of this. And because they didn't trust their president and they hated Hoover so much, they actually started calling these little pop-up towns Hoovervilles after President Hoover. They started calling these shanty towns Hoovervilles. And Roosevelt knew that. He knew going into this, the American people need something to change. They need something to go on, and they need something to happen. So when he did his inaugural address, he wanted to kind of reinstill hope in the American people. He wanted to kind of be the turning point and help fix the problem. And it's not that Hoover didn't want to fix the problem. Hoover just didn't have any idea of how. And Roosevelt ended up knowing how. And he ended up being one of our most, and you can argue with me about this, he ended up being one of the most influential presidents that we've had. And because he had such a big impact, he was actually elected 4 times, where any other president before or after him was only elected twice. And he's actually the reason why we do have the term limits. But when he ran for president, that law wasn't in effect. He was allowed to run for as many times as he wanted. And if he hadn't gotten sick and passed away, he probably would have run for a 5th. And he probably would have been elected for a 5th. He gave America kind of back their identity. He gave America back their hope and their pride. And because of that, he is so famous. He is so infamous. He's so kind of, I guess, memorable. And what we're going to do, we are going to watch his inaugural address. And we're going to tear it apart for his claim. What argument is he making to the American people? Now, this is not going to be your stereotypical argument. This is not going to be like an argument essay where there's going to be a clear claim and it's going to be, we should all have cell phones. All schools should not have school uniforms. His is more, he's making an argument to America. He's making an argument about, what do I want my presidency to be? This is what I want to achieve with my presidency. So while we're watching it, I want you guys to listen and see if you can pick out his claim. Pick out what he's saying, what his goal is for America. Now, as the video is playing, like I said, the quality is not good. I have a transcript of the entire portion of the speech that we are going to watch right under the video. So there's the video link, and then there is the transcript link. Now, I'm going to play the video, so you don't have to do that, but I do want you reading along. Because like I said, you're not missing much by watching it. I want you reading. I want you listening and then reading along as he's talking. Okay, so open this up. You can make a copy because I want you highlighting all over this as we tear it apart. And then I'll start the video, okay?
You, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, do solemnly swear that you will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of your ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. So help you God. I, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. So help me God. President Hoover, Mr. Chief Justice, my friends, this is a day of national consecration, and I am certain that on this day my fellow Americans expect that on my induction into the presidency I will address them with a candor and a decision which the present situation of our people impels. This is preeminently the time to speak the truth and boldly, nor need we shrink from honestly facing conditions in our country today. This great nation will endure as it has endured, will revive and will prosper. So first of all, let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself, nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror, which paralyzes needed effort to convert retreat into advance. In every dark hour of our national life, a leadership of frankness and of vigor has met with that understanding and support of the people themselves, which is essential to victory. And I am convinced that you will again give that support to leadership in these critical days.
Okay, looking at the first paragraph, because claims are always in the first paragraph. They're in the introduction. That's why in the digital breakout room with the article that had all the colors, it wasn't meant to be as hard as it was. Claims are always going to be in the introduction. They're always going to be there. That's just good writing skills. You just want your reader to know what you're arguing. So looking at this first paragraph, what do we think President Roosevelt is arguing? What does he want for his presidency? What does he want the American people to understand that he's going to try to do this? Okay, so I want everyone to open up the transcript if you haven't already. And just glance through. And if you think you know, hop on the chat or hop on the mic. Well, and I can even give us a starting point. If anybody's ever heard of FDR, it's probably because of this phrase, or maybe they've heard of this phrase and they don't know that it's from FDR right here. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. That is probably one of the most popular quotes that he is known for. His claim is halfway dealing with this. I would say this is one half of his claim. So look at the sentences around this one, and I'll even highlight the whole sentence because I think the whole sentence really is just fantastic. So I'm going to highlight the whole sentence. Which other sentence around this one is the second half of the claim? And then we'll translate this into regular English after. And it's okay to take a guess. It's okay to just go, maybe, flip a coin, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. No? Okay. Okay, it is the first one. So both of these are coming together to form a single thought. And I think the third sentence ties into it, but it's not nearly as connected as that first one is. Now, what I want us to do is I want us to kind of translate this into modern English. Okay, and I was telling this to all the people that I helped in the escape room. When we read, we always need to take time and stop. We always need to stop and just go, wait a minute. What in the heck are they saying? Because when we quiz ourselves like that, we're giving our brain a chance to grow and just decipher and make it easier to see. So let's put this into modern English. What or who is the great nation that he's talking about in that first sentence? This great nation will endure as it has endured and will revive and will prosper. Yeah, he's talking about America. Okay, capital apostrophe, America. Oh, what about America? Well, let's see. It will endure as it has endured. Well, I'm seeing a word I don't know. What the heck does this mean? Endure. Anybody want to take a guess? America will endure as it has endured. Yeah, Dominic got it in one. We're keeping going. When you endure something, you work through it. And it deals with hard times, just like Trevor said. You get past hard times. You push through, you persevere, you endure. So he's saying America has gone through some really hard times and come out stronger. And it will again. Okay, that's what he's saying. He's like, we're going to get through this. Just like we have in the past. Can anybody think of what's one thing that America had to endure before the Great Depression, before World War II? Okay, Jacob says Civil War. Completely agree. Civil War. Our country almost became two countries back in the 1800s. We were almost divided by hatred and by self-preservation and by just general disagreements. Okay, what's another difficulty that we've had to push through as a country? Things that we got through, we persevered, we overcame the challenges, and we were stronger at the end of it because of it. Yeah, American Revolution. How did we become a country? It wasn't a peaceful little meeting where the king was like, okay, fine, you can be a country. No, we had to fight. We had to go to war. We had to die and bleed for our country. And like even prior to World War II, well, you can't have a World War II without a World War I. So we've already been a part of huge conflicts and huge wars. And so he's saying, even though this time is really tough, even though it's really challenging, we're going to be okay. And we're going to get better and we're going to become stronger because of it. We've made it through. Now we're going to talk about this fear piece. So looking at this second sentence, I love the second sentence. This is so beautifully written. So first of all, let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror, which paralyzes needed efforts to convert retreat into advance. What is he saying about fear? Okay, he's saying our nation is going to get through this and we're going to be stronger because we got through this. Now let's tie in this fear piece. He's saying we are going to get stronger, but what do we have to do with fear? Is he saying fear the Nazis? Fear the war that's going on in Europe? Is he saying all American people, we should be scared that war is coming in Europe and we should be scared that this, that, and that? No, he's saying what about fear? He's saying our only fear, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Okay, Dominic says they shouldn't fear what is happening. Good. There will be challenges and fear to come in the world. Must be brave. Only to fear ever. Okay, good. Yeah, you guys are all really close. He's essentially saying when push comes to shove as a country, we really don't have anything that we need to be worried about. We really don't have to be afraid of anything. Our fears are our biggest enemies, and we just have to push that aside because they're not really fears. They're doubts, yes, of course, but he's like, that's not anything that truly needs to be afraid of. Okay, we don't have to worry about Hitler. We don't have to worry about, we don't have to fear, I don't know, just different tragedies that can happen. He's like, our fear is going to cripple us. Our fear is going to hurt us. So we need to push past it. We just need to move past our fear and move on and endure. So what I want us to do then is let's look at this first question. What was the main claim of his speech? Well, I feel like we've answered that. And we can even say FDR is claiming that America is strong and just needs to push back on their fears to overcome their problems. So in your document, you can copy and paste what I put in the chat and just make it a different color, okay? I don't want it black. That way it jumps out. That way we can see it. It's easy. It's understandable. Okay. Now we're gonna kind of pick up back where we stopped. It might be a little behind where we stopped. That's fine. As it's playing again. So our next question deals with his reasons. Why is he thinking the way he's thinking? Why is he claiming that we're going to get through this? We don't really have anything to worry about. We just need to work hard and persevere. The way that I want you to do this is this. We've got about 5 minutes left once I hit play. I want you to pay attention to words and to topics that he talks about a couple of times. That's going to tell us what his reasons are. Okay, he's going to mention it a couple of times, and that's going to tell us, okay, this is important to him. This is one of his reasons. Okay, so while it's playing, just listen for those topics and look for synonyms. Okay, like he may say, I don't know, he may say war, or he could say the conflict between nations. They're both the same thing. They're both talking about war. Okay, so listen for synonyms as well as just topics. And then, like I said, following along does help.
In these critical days, in such a spirit on my part and on yours, we face our common difficulties. They concern, thank God, only material things. Values have shrunk to fantastic levels, taxes have risen, our ability to pay has fallen, Government of all kinds is faced by serious curtailment of income. The means of exchange are frozen in the currents of trade. The withered leaves of industrial enterprise lie on every side. Farmers find no market for their produce, and the savings of many years in thousands of families are gone. More important, a host of unemployed citizens face the grim problem of existence, and an equally great number toil with little return. Only a foolish optimist can deny the dark realities of the moment. And yet our distress comes from no failure of substance. We are stricken by no plague of locusts. Compared with the perils which our forefathers conquered because they believed and were not afraid, we have still much to be thankful for. Nature still offers her bounty, and human efforts have multiplied it. Plenty is at our doorstep, but a generous use of it languishes in the very sight of the supply. Primarily, this is because the rulers of the exchange of mankind's goods have failed through their own stubbornness and their own incompetence, have admitted their failure and have abdicated. Practices of the unscrupulous money changers stand indicted in the court of public opinion, rejected by the hearts and minds of men. True, they have tried, but their efforts have been cast in the pattern of an outworn tradition. Faced by failure of credit, they have proposed only the lending of more money. Stripped of the lure of profit by which to induce our people to follow their false leadership, they have resorted to exhortation, pleading tearfully for restored confidence. They only know the rules of a generation of self-seekers. They have no vision, and when there is no vision, the people perish. Yes, the money changers have fled from their high seats in the temple of our civilization. We may now restore that temple to the ancient truth. The measure of that restoration lies in the extent to which we apply social values, more noble than mere monetary profit. Happiness lies not in the mere possession of money. It lies in the joy of achievement, in the thrill of creative effort. The joy, the moral stimulation of work no longer must be forgotten in the mad chase of evanescent profit. These dark days, my friends, will be worth all they cost us if they teach us that our true destiny is not to be ministered unto, but to minister to ourselves, to our fellow men. Recognition of that falsity of material wealth as the standard of success goes hand in hand with the abandonment of the false belief that public office and high political positions are to be valued only by the standard of pride of place and personal profit. And there must be an end to a conduct in banking and in business which too often has given to a sacred trust the likeness of callous and selfish wrongdoing.
Now, that was just part of his speech. His speech went on to be around 15 minutes total, which is kind of a norm for inaugural addresses. But I just wanted to have us look at that part. So, based on what I said and what you were hearing, what were some of his main reasons? What were words that kept popping up, or topics that kept popping up? Things that he mentioned multiple times in that 7 minutes. Yeah, he kept bringing up this idea of money. What was he saying about money and more money? Because he used the term creditors, he used money changers, he talked about economics, he said monetary, all of those meaning the same thing, money. So what is he telling us about money? He's saying, and I think he's saying something negative about money. He's saying money doesn't do something. What is he saying that money doesn't do? Money does not, or should not. Let's leave it open to that too. Yeah, he's saying something like money doesn't buy happiness. Okay, same thing. You can copy and paste this under one of the reasons. Okay, that's one of them. Money doesn't buy happiness. He was saying working together, that is better than money. And money is just kind of an add-on. Money is just kind of a benefit. Now, what was something else that kind of popped up a lot? And I want to talk a little bit about the money changers. He was talking about some kind of a person or a noun, and he called them money changers. What do you think that means? He gave them another title. What was he talking about when he was talking about the money changers? This is the other reason that he's talking about. Because at one point, here, let me look. At one point, he says, the money changers have fled from their high seats in the temple of our civilization. So who are these money changers that he's talking about right here? Who are these people that have fled? And at one point he talks about how they failed, and he talks about how they have abdicated, meaning that they have stepped down. Talking about leadership and the old president. He's talking about the person who was president before him. He was saying they are way too greedy. They are way too obsessed with money. Okay, he says something right here, false leadership in the paragraph above that. So he's saying they didn't do a good job at their jobs. They were awful. They gave into the lure of profit, meaning they gave into wanting more money, that they ended up failing as just being leaders. So, for the second reason, he's saying that we as America need leaders who will what? Let's make a second reason that you guys can copy and paste in. We need leaders who will he's kind of saying, I'm going to be different than, yeah, he's saying we need leaders who care more about bringing us together to fix problems and making money. He's like, we need to come together as a country just for the betterment of ourselves, for all of us to become better, for all of us to have better lives and not necessarily worry about money. So, second one, copy and paste it in, okay? It's going to go right here under question number 2. Okay, so for under 2, you should have 2 things right now. You should have money doesn't bring happiness, and then copying and pasting this last one I put in the chat box. We need leaders who care more about bringing us together and fixing, oops, that should have been fixing problems. Okay, now that we have so little time left, I want to see if we can get this done. So that way tomorrow when you guys come into class, all you have to do is the independent one, because you're doing this bottom one by yourselves. And this bottom one is a lot easier. It's about 10 times easier than the other one. This one is so much easier that you guys are going to do it by yourselves. That's why it's called independent practice. Okay. So if I'm looking at number 3A, I'm going to try to find some evidence that FDR has. And like I said, we're out of time. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through my thought process. So I'm going to just start with the first one. Money doesn't buy happiness. And if you guys find an example, please put it in the chat. I'll copy and paste it. So I'm just going to start just looking through it. I'm going to look for the idea of happiness and the fact that money causes problems when it comes to happiness. Okay, well, here's something about the failed credit, lure of profit. Ooh, I see the word happiness. I'm going to jump down here. So looking at happiness, happiness lies not in the mere possession of money. It lies in the joy of achievement, in the thrill of creative effort. Ooh, I love that one. So I'm going to put that one as example 1 for 3A. Now I'm going to put it in the chat box so you guys can have it. And I'm going to cite it correctly. And I'm going to do 1 at the beginning and 1 at the end. Okay. Now, I'm going to do the same thing with leadership. And I want to find something that talks about we need leaders who bring us together. And actually, I'm going to pick this one. I like this one from paragraph 6. The money changers have fled from their high seats in the temple of our civilization. Because I can then talk about why the money changers had to flee. And I can say something like, Roosevelt is talking about how the past leaders were more worried about money and they had to give up their positions because they weren't doing their jobs right. They cared more about money than leading. So I'm going to use this one. It doesn't match perfectly, but then again, who said evidence has to match perfectly? Not me. Okay, now this one I'm going to cite at the end. So I'm going to move that period outside of the quotation marks. And then I'm going to just do the same thing. I'm going to have the author's name. So Roosevelt space, paragraph, and that was in 6. Okay, so copy and paste those where those need to be. Now, this last question I want you guys to do on your own. Looking at the quotes that you should have just copied and pasted right in here, are they good, relevant, strong pieces of evidence for the claim that we pasted in here? Okay, so I hope you've been following along and copying and pasting where I said to. Because you should have that claim that we wrote. FDR is claiming that America is going to be stronger and pushing through the, I don't remember it exactly, but that's going to go here. So you're going to look at this and you're going to go, okay, do these two things support it? Are these strong, relevant pieces of evidence? And then give a little why.